15 dark psychology tactics used in relationships. Most, more common than you think. Manipulation doesn't always look like fights or ultimatums. The most dangerous tactics are subtle, small moves that twist reality and leave you questioning your instincts. Number 1. Gaslighting. Gaslighting is a slow and deliberate attack on your sense of reality. It's like being caught in a maze where the walls keep shifting, and the only person with a map is the one leading you astray. It starts innocently enough. Are you sure that's what happened? Or you've been so forgetful lately. These comments feel like minor misunderstandings at first, so you brush them off. But as time goes on, they become more frequent and pointed. Then come the bigger manipulations, rewriting events entirely, saying, "You're imagining things again." Or, "We talked about this, remember?" They might even back it up with evidence, like an edited text or a fabricated story. You begin to question your memory, your emotions, and eventually your sanity. It's a strategy of control, where they slowly erode your confidence until you rely on them to define reality. And by the time you realize what's happening, it's as if you've been boiled alive in a fog of doubt. Number 2, triangulation. Triangulation isn't just a tactic, it's a weapon. A manipulator uses it to make you feel insecure by introducing a third party, whether real or imagined. It might sound like, "My ex used to do this better," or "Why can't you be more like my friend's partner?" At first, these comments sting, but you brush them off. Over time, though, they start to eat away at your confidence. You find yourself comparing, competing, and striving to meet their unspoken standard. But here's the twist. It's not about you or the third person. The manipulator uses triangulation to keep you off balance, focusing on proving yourself rather than questioning their behavior. It's all about control, keeping you chasing validation you'll never truly receive. Number 3, intermittent reinforcement. Intermittent reinforcement is like being in a toxic relationship with a slot machine. You're constantly pulling the lever, hoping for that jackpot of affection, but the payout never lasts. One day, they're your dream partner, romantic texts, surprise compliments, and a warmth that makes you feel like you're the center of their world. Then, without warning, they're cold, distant, or even cruel. The shift is so jarring that you can't help but replay everything in your mind, wondering what you did wrong. This cycle of affection and rejection is designed to keep you emotionally hooked. Your brain clings to the highs, believing the lows are just a passing phase. But the truth is, the manipulator is in control, pulling the strings to keep you dependent on their unpredictable love. Number 4, negging. Negging is like being handed a bouquet of roses with thorns intact. On the surface, it looks like a compliment, but it's designed to cut you down. It might sound like, "You'd look amazing if you lost a little weight," or "You're smart for someone who didn't finish college." At first, these comments seem minor, even playful. You might laugh them off or think, maybe they didn't mean it that way. But here's the thing, negging isn't random. It's a calculated attempt to make you doubt your worth. Each backhanded compliment chips away at your confidence, leaving you striving for their approval. You start thinking, if I just improve in this one area, maybe they'll stop making those comments. The real danger? Over time, you internalize these remarks. Their voice becomes the critical one in your head, and you feel like you're never good enough. Number 5, future faking. Future faking is the art of selling a dream that keeps you tethered to a fantasy. It's like they're holding a carrot on a stick, just out of reach, promising a future that will never come. They'll say things like, "We'll get married next year," or "Once I get this promotion, everything will be perfect." They don't just make promises, they paint vivid pictures, complete with wedding venues, dream vacations, and happy ever afters. These visions distract you from the cracks in the present. You ignore the broken promises and red flags because you're holding on to the hope that the future will make it all worth it. But the reality is, that future was never real. It's a tactic to keep you invested while they avoid accountability for the present. Number 6, cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is like living in a constant state of mental whiplash. It happens when their words and actions don't align, leaving you in a haze of confusion. They might say, "I love you," but their behavior feels cold or dismissive. Your gut tells you something is off, but their sweet words make you doubt yourself. You start asking, "Am I overreacting? Did I misunderstand?" This internal conflict isn't just exhausting, it's deliberate. Over time, the manipulator uses your self-doubt to keep you questioning your instincts and leaning on their version of reality. It's a psychological tug-of-war that wears down your ability to trust yourself. Number 7, erosion of boundaries. Erosion of boundaries is like a slow, silent invasion of your personal space and independence. It's not a sudden takeover. It's a series of tiny steps that lead to complete control. At first, they make small requests that seem harmless. "Can you skip your workout today so we can hang out?" Or, "Why don't you tell me about that private thing you mentioned?" These feel like normal parts of building a connection. But the requests don't stop there. Slowly, they push for more. They ask you to cancel plans with friends, share deeply personal secrets, or give up hobbies you once loved. Each time, you compromise a little more until you realize your boundaries have completely disappeared. The scariest part, you didn't even see it happening because each step felt so small. But together, they add up to a loss of autonomy. Number 8, Pavlovian Conditioning. Pavlovian conditioning is the emotional equivalent of training a dog, but this time, you're the one being trained. A manipulator uses rewards and punishments to shape your behavior without you even realizing it. When you agree with them, they're sweet and affectionate. You get their love and attention, and everything feels right. But when you disagree or assert yourself, the warmth vanishes. They might lash out, withdraw, or give you the silent treatment. Over time, you start changing your behavior, not because it feels right, but because you want to avoid their punishment. It's subtle, but it rewires your priorities until their needs overshadow your own. Number 9, love bombing. Love bombing feels like a fairy tale come to life. It's intense, overwhelming, and intoxicating at first. They shower you with compliments, romantic gestures, and endless affection, making you feel like the most important person in the world. But once you're hooked, the love bombing fades and the reality of their manipulation sets in. Suddenly, you're chasing the version of them they pretended to be, desperate to get back to those magical early days. The truth? It was never about love, it was about control. If these tactics are starting to sound eerily familiar, don't panic, you're not alone. Recognizing these behaviors is the first step to breaking free. If you're finding this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Now back to the action. Number 10, silent treatment. The silent treatment is more than just ignoring someone. It's a weaponized form of emotional control. Imagine trying to resolve a disagreement, only to be met with cold, impenetrable silence. No texts, no calls, no acknowledgement of your existence. It's as if you've been erased. At first, you might think, maybe they need space. But as the silence stretches on, it becomes unbearable. You start replaying the argument in your head, picking apart every word, wondering, what did I do wrong? How can I fix this? The tension builds until you're desperate to break it, apologizing, compromising, or bending over backward just to get them to speak to you again. But here's the secret. This isn't about resolving conflict. It's about teaching you a lesson. Number 11, projection. Projection is like watching someone throw their dirty laundry at you and then blaming you for the mess. It's a tactic where the manipulator flips the script, accusing you of the very things they're guilty of. For example, they might say, "You're so controlling," while they're the ones dictating your every move. Or they'll accuse you of jealousy while secretly entertaining flirty messages with someone else. These accusations catch you off guard, forcing you into a defensive position. Here's why projection is so effective. It creates chaos. Instead of questioning their actions, you're busy defending yourself, saying things like, "I'm not jealous," or "I'm not trying to control you." In the process, their behavior goes unchecked. Number 12, double binds. Double binds are like being stuck in quicksand. No matter what direction you move, you sink deeper. This tactic creates situations where every choice you make is the wrong one. Imagine they say, "If you loved me, you'd spend more time with me." But when you do, they turn around and criticize you for being too clingy or predictable. Or maybe they demand you speak your mind, only to snap at you when you do, accusing you of being argumentative or overly sensitive. The purpose of double binds is to create frustration and emotional paralysis. The more frustrated and uncertain you feel, the more power they have. Number 13, micro-cheating. Micro-cheating exists in the murky waters between trust and betrayal. It's not outright infidelity, but it's just enough to make you feel unsettled. It might look like flirty texts with a coworker, jokingly liking suggestive photos on social media, or maintaining a little too much contact with an ex. When you call it out, they dismiss your concerns, saying, "You're overreacting," or "It's not like I'm actually cheating." Here's what makes micro-cheating so damaging. It's subtle and deniable. You start questioning yourself. Am I being too sensitive? Am I making something out of nothing? This uncertainty eats away at the foundation of trust in the relationship. The constant feeling of unease keeps you second-guessing your instincts and doubting your partner's intentions. Number 14, forced comparisons. Forced comparisons are a manipulator's way of making you feel like you're running a race you'll never win. They constantly measure you against others to keep you striving for their approval. It might sound like, "My ex always used to do this for me," or "Why can't you be more like my friend's partner?" On the surface, these comments seem like simple observations, but their real purpose is far more damaging. These comparisons create insecurity. You start wondering, am I enough? Should I change to be more like this person they admire? Over time, you find yourself chasing an ever-moving goalpost, trying to meet their impossible standards. But here's the truth. It's not about you or the person they're comparing you to. It's about control. Number 15, unpredictability. Unpredictability is the emotional equivalent of walking through a minefield. One moment, they're warm, loving, and attentive. Then next, they're cold, distant, or explosive. You never know which version of them you're going to get. This constant shift creates anxiety. You start tiptoeing around them, trying to manage their moods and avoid triggering an outburst. Over time, their unpredictability trains you to prioritize their emotions over your own. By keeping you on edge, they ensure you're too preoccupied with their behavior to focus on yourself. Unpredictability isn't just exhausting, it's a powerful tool to keep you trapped in a cycle of emotional dependency. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.